That's a Shame is brought to you by the people who support us over at patreon.com/shamecity.
If you have $1,
$2.
$1 to spare, join us again at patreon.com/shamecity. Please.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello and welcome to That's a Shame, that podcast that comes out every week without fail, without break, without even a modicum of effort on our part, to be honest, because producing content this good
Comes
it's
naturally.
like spitting out your gob for us.
Go on.
Best place to spit from, in my experience. You just hock it up and out spits another hour of content.
Do you do that?
And if
Is that
that sounds disrespectful,
Go on.
then that's unintended, because sometimes spitting can be an act of charity, an act of love. Spitting on a plant, for example.
Someone from school is starting a podcast soon.
A child or an adult?
No, an adult, a
Okay,
teacher.
because a child's podcast, it would be so
rubbish.
shit.
It would be so
They've
bad.
got no anecdotes.
They've got
kids.
nothing
Nothing
to
ever
say.
happens to them.
Absolutely
They'll be like,
nothing. Apart from the ones I teach,
doing
you know, some of them-
Beyblade. And that'll be it.
They're still on Beyblades, are they?
Fidget spinners and Beyblades, that's them.
They love anime. That's one thing I've
It's
found.
huge
They
these
fucking
days.
love anime.
Yeah.
No, a teacher, and I had to kind of warn them that
They weren't funny.
I had to say, much as we did in our pilot episode to some of our friends.
Oh, no.
No, I had to remind them, or warn them, I should say, that if they go on any of the forums, they will find a lot of people talking about how difficult it is.
Yeah, they say,
And
like,
they are
guys,
under strict
Podcasting
instructions
serious
to ignore
business.
that.
You need 100 hours free for every half hour of content you produce. That's the edit. That's the research. That's getting on the Grussel.
And we know that really only reflects poorly on us for how often we just stop doing it. But
But it ain't hard, is it?
no, it's not.
I mean, we have put huge amounts of effort into some things, but
Yeah.
over a very, and I can't stress this enough, small period of time.
yeah,
Like
but
high effort, short weekend.
I would say, and this is just me having listened back to it, something like The Return, that's worth a month and a half of EPs. So
Yeah, at least.
And although to be fair, that was for the previous month and a half of EPs.
And we are not doing another of those soon.
not anytime soon.
I'm
no.
super
Isaac's
over that.
become a sort of old babushka.
I'm living in a green Buzz Lightyear blanket. I'm so cold these days in our world. Awfully cold in London. Depressing place to be in just about every conceivable way. Sad vibes, the city wide.
It's quite bleak, isn't it?
I've been sending out my antennae, that I have. I've been sending them out across the city to my various contacts and networks, just taking the pulse, the temperature of the big smoky town.
And
let me
they've come back.
exclusively report everyone is depressed. You'd
No
never guess it.
way.
Everyone's hating life 2K21.
Yeah, it's lockdown 3.0 has been a real drain on people.
You know what? I have to take the L on this one, because I specifically remember that last year, as we launched into January, I made a big prediction about the positive energy of the new decade. We even had a whole chat about how fun it would be to pronounce it that way. But I tell you what, we're not.
It sucked.
It's scrapped.
It's been
The 20s are irrecoverable.
Let me say, a busted flush of a decade.
2023 could come around and I could be crowned Prince Regent of the goddamn world, and it would not make up for quite how dour
How awful it has
it's just been for so many people. And that's just the ones who are still alive, and that's barely anyone these days.
Now, you see, the people who are alive, though,
Yeah,
I don't know if you noticed the change in tone.
I picked up on it,
Go
but pod expert I am, I didn't draw attention to it.
That's cool. I just thought
It's
I
fine
might, just
if you
in
want
case.
to.
No, yeah, I'm doing a segue. What some of those people have been spending their time doing, the people who are alive, is they've been watching the movies.
Oh,
Because unfortunately, we can't go to the movies.
That's true. I do miss that, actually.
Yeah, I
'cause
miss
it's
that
the only
too.
time that I engage in media that lasts for more than about 15 minutes.
Isaac may well wander off in the middle of this very recording.
Yeah,
like,
this
he
will be
cannot
one of the longest times I've sat
concentrate.
still. I just have lost all attention span.
But not satisfied with that, what many have taken to is reviewing the movies
on apps such as Letterboxd.
on exactly apps such as
Nice.
Letterboxd.
That's good to
And I thought that I would just, because I see them every now and then, but I've never really looked into some of my or indeed our favourite movies to see how they're doing, how they're faring.
I'd hope if they're favourites, they'd be doing extremely well.
would think so.
Because I don't know about you, but my favourites, they're the best ones.
But the thing is that we have noticed before in other places that this isn't always the case. And I remember very specifically when we first logged into Amazon Prime back at the old flat, and we were just looking through movies, and there was very good movies, Jackie.
Oh, that is a good one.
Which was
low
rated
on IMDb
3.5 stars.
That's foolish.
And it was sort of significantly below Spid the racing car,
Who
which
is
had
a
a
Flash
solid
animation
5.
almost. He's a cartoon that looks like he was sort of an Elsa Gate franchise that never quite spun up.
that they didn't bother to really animate.
It's really bad. Do check it out if you have Amazon Prime. It is just called Spid.
Yep.
And I have checked that's not a known slur so far, so we aren't allowed to say it. Although it does.
We're doing our best.
It has all of the qualities of a slur,
absolutely.
just without being one quite yet. So maybe if you can think of a minority that you'd like to marginalise with that word, email that in.
Yeah, and we'll the best one.
People
We'll
who
let them know.
animate bad car shows where some parts of it they just didn't apply the animation attribute to all of the bits in the scene. So Spid can drive, but some of the other vehicles just sort of hover along.
And the
engine goes
really
through
did
the bonnet.
They really did settle on a formula whereby Spid, who I believe is green, races a blue and a yellow vehicle
on a planet that looks suspiciously similar, but it'll be it's an ice planet this week
because they've changed the palette. And every time he's going to lose, the blue is going to win, and then he does.
He does always.
Because he gets a special boost that neither of the other cars gets.
Their engineers forgot to add that one.
We did spend a lot of time watching that for something so bad, but some say that's what you
have to put
doing.
that hours in.
I thought I would check out Letterboxd, and I thought that I would start for this very reason with Jackie, just to see what's going on. And I clicked, and I found some not all that friendly reviews.
That's disappointing to hear because it is a good film.
Well, I'll Be starts Euthanadia. I've never turned off a movie so fast. Literally so boring. Please just watch Paint Dry instead. Also, Natalie Portman has a terrible accent.
This is the character of a lot of criticism of Jackie is the accent.
But the thing is that was just Jackie's accent.
Exactly.
And there were so many that were like, don't know why she's doing this annoying voice. And you're like, well, unfortunately, that is the person she's playing.
Dead Jackie
Ask the
Onassis,
past.
if you like. But good luck.
Another here who went for offering the film a measly half a star.
I didn't even know you could give half stars. I fucking hate when you can give half stars.
Yeah, they give a half star.
It's so pointless.
Just said, also known as, or what it should have been called, The Funeral of John F. Kennedy. That full stop. Piece of shit movie.
Oh, I don't know what it means because The Funeral of John F. Kennedy is not,
maybe 10 minutes of the movie.
It's barely happens. It's right at the end.
It's really quite staggeringly unsentimental about
maybe that person accidentally only saw that bit and that's why they were like
on a loop.
They were like, oh, this film's 4 minutes long.
Like my aunt who borrowed my DVD of The Day After Tomorrow and put it on to watch while she was doing some ironing and ended up watching The Menu for 30 minutes because it was just lots of satellite shots. So she was like, thought it was very slow to get going.
What was that film that we watched that was just 20 minutes of establishing footage of LA?
It was Escape Room, but not Escape Room. It was Escape Room.
Was that on Prime?
That was on Prime.
Prime's bullshit.
There's so much. Many an evening we've spent watching just trailers. So I thought this is good. I'm gonna delve into some of this and see what people are saying about movies.
I'm sorry to hear that people are so wrong though.
I tried to think of what are some movies that you surely couldn't dislike.
That was my first. To.
Yeah, and I thought I'd start
like The Mummy.
I'd start with It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
Right? Christmas movie. It's like a
it's
classic.
Got a very straightforwardly upbeat message. You couldn't go away from it and be this is about cancel culture.
Now you would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
One user, unfortunately named Freddy Fazbear.
Oh no.
Now their review is it has a cool twist that I hope that you pick up on.
I'll
this movie is so bad Do not watch it. It's boring, and I fell asleep halfway through it, then left the theatre only an hour in. Chris Nolan has no clue how to direct.
Okay, 2 things here. Obviously, Christopher Nolan. But let's park that. He fell asleep halfway through and left after an hour is a temporal impossibility.
Yeah, because the movie is quite long.
Yeah, I feel like he did watch a different film. I think he watched Tenet.
Quite possibly, and then came to review It's a Wonderful Life.
By accident.
A complete waste of time. Depressing, to say the least. Depressing to say at least.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why it is recommended as a Christmas movie.
It's because it's about Christmas.
Maybe if you like seeing other people failing miserably in life and living the life they never wished to live. Garbage, to say at least.
I love that they said to say at least twice. Also, the end is extremely uplifting.
It's one of the most...
and the title is It is a Wonderful Life.
Now, the other thing that I found in like more reviews than I was comfortable with was this idea that people didn't understand why it was a Christmas movie. Many saying you might as well call Toy Story a Christmas movie because it has one Christmas scene in it.
What's the Christmas scene in Toy Story?
Right at the very end, the very last scene is set at Christmas.
Oh, yes, I do vaguely remember now.
But yeah.
No, that's a bad
Raluca Diaconu wasn't impressed.
I do always wonder, like, there are definitely classic things that I think are shit, but I feel like if you're going into a film that is, like, at the tier of It's a Wonderful Life, and you hate it, like, you have to sort of situate that criticism within a context of, like, this is also a classic work for some reason. Like, it's fine if you're 14 and you're being edgy and you're like, fuck films, man. They're bullshit. I just like anime or VR, whatever they do.
Running around these days.
Naruto.
Beyblade.
Yeah, fucking fidget spinners again. Scooby-Doo's, isn't it? But if you're an adult and you're watching or a film or reading a book that's like a classic, I feel like you could... A valid criticism would be, it's not for me for these reasons. But I don't think it's just... You can't really engage with someone who's like, actually 12 Angry Men is just bad. Because it just isn't.
Yeah,
there just is a reason why it's considered very, very good.
Yeah, you have to properly engage in something like a really meaningful criticism of something like that. Or, as you say, on the spectrum of like, it's not for me, like I didn't like enjoy it. But to look at it and say, I think It's a Wonderful Life is bad and not a Christmas movie and depressing. It's just like, well, you watched a different film.
Also, I think it's in
You've
colour.
watched Tenet.
I think it's in colour, and I think he goes back in time into his wife's dream. And then there's a yo-yo.
Jude West gave half a star on the 25th of January 2016 and said, I never want to think of this movie ever again. God, fake as.
Why review it if you don't want to think about it?
Harry Dobbs said on just the 28th of December last year, fucker couldn't even die right.
Brutal.
was his sole assessment. But he did give 1 star. He didn't give as low as possible.
That's fair enough, because he did try to die almost.
He did.
He gave it an
I got reminded by that review that maybe Toy Story would be one to have a look at, see what people
Another Christmas movie.
Another favourite festive film of mine. Now, you may have guessed that I was looking at the lowest possible reviews.
Can you sort by lowest?
Yes, you can.
That's great.
Before I were able to do so, it sorts automatically by most recent.
Uh-huh.
And there was a review of Toy Story from today.
Yeah.
That was... Mr. Potato Head is a fucking arsehole.
Whoa.
4.5 stars.
Wow. But I like that about him. More representation for those guys on screen. Love to see myself reflected on the silver.
So I then did pop back to the old lowest possible.
I fucking hate someone who gives something 4.5 stars. It's like cowardly. Like pick.
Proper like 4 stars noose.
It's just pick which way you're going on that.
Was it a perfect movie or was it just good?
Yeah. I give everything 5 stars. That's my approach.
I only watch things I know I'll like.
On Goodreads, when it asks you to rate a book, I just give it 5 stars straight away. I can't be bothered. I don't care if I liked something or not, because it's over now. I don't need to categorise things externally to myself if I liked them or not. I just know it.
You could not leave a review.
I could, but it really asks you to for their own metrics, and I'm loath to.
So what you thought is you would just fuck up those metrics?
Well, it's not really, because whenever I've finished a book, I think, well, for what that book was doing, it probably did nail it. I just thought that thing that it was doing was bad. But 5 stars.
Daniel Raffinejad says, I find this franchise homophobic.
The Toy Story franchise?
Yep.
Right from the outset as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he hasn't left any more of a clue as to why.
Okay, let's try and unpack that then. I think it's obviously going to be that he thinks Woody and Buzz should have been more explicitly in a homosexual relationship.
They should have shipped Woody and Buzz.
Yeah, what's that called in films where there's like a term for it in like sort of internet queer theory? I think they call it queer baiting, where they have characters who are nominally LGBTQ, but only so that people are like, wow, cool. I think Bridgerton has been accused of doing this.
Right.
Because it's like, look how progressive we are. We have gay and queer characters, but they are just used as like a sticker that you put on a show, and like, we include queer characters.
Didn't Pixar do that with Onward? They had that.
I haven't seen Onward. They did do it with Toy Story with Buzz and Woody. I think that might be what you meant.
Right. Yeah.
They'd also do it with Han.
They had a. I think it was a trans character
in Onward,
but it was
about.
But it was
fairies?
a Cyclops cop.
Oh goodness!
Who was a sort of troll.
That's a complicated set of identities that Cyclops is working.
And it's
through.
like, well, okay. you have just. There was no need for this. You've done less than nothing. It sounds like
they span the wheel of fortune of what.
Yeah, and they're going to be
and it landed on like 8 at once.
Yeah, I think possibly maybe they think that Woody is kind of like a repressed, because he's got that. He's camp, but he's angry.
Is he camp, Woody?
Well, I don't know if he's camp or if he's just long limbed. It's hard to
like
tell.
Slender Man.
They all kind of flail about a bit.
Not all of them, mate.
No, but
not Etch-a-Sketch.
He's the flailiest of the lot.
You'd be careful throwing that around. Get you in a lot of trouble with the sketch lobby.
Imagine saying that Etch-a-Sketch was limp wristed.
I think it must be Buzz and Woody. I guess you could maybe look at the relationship between Sid and Andy through a queer lens.
Yeah.
I don't know
which would be. Well, they're never in the same room.
Well, there you go. Right? What's more homophobic than that?
Wow.
They're never even allowed to meet.
Speaking of Sid, Jolo just said, those toys did Sid wrong.
Yeah, I mean, in a way they did, because they weren't very compassionate about Sid's clearly abusive upbringing that left him like, the kid is by himself all day and like no oversight from his parents.
I mean, his sister seems to be doing okay.
His sister is doing okay, but I feel like she's younger, isn't she?
Yeah.
So I think the problem is that his parents have clearly neglected him in favour of the younger sister. And it happens all the time. My mum's a
They have allowed him to have that horrible room filled with all sorts of.
But they should know that he's doing all those menacing experiments, like that doctor.
He's got a lot of tools.
Too many tools for a child.
Yeah.
Too much explosive power for a child. He could level a country with some of that stuff. It really makes you worry.
The big one.
And they should have known as well that, calling your boy Sid is not pushing him down
only
a great
going
path.
to lead to ill.
Yeah, and give him that t-shirt.
When I was a child, said a loaf of Brad.
Nice, I like that, Brad.
When I was a child, Buzz Lightyear made me think I could fly. So I jumped off a couch and broke my bones. No thank you.
The point of that film is
no
that
thank you,
cannot
Pixar.
fly.
That was they did a whole song.
The key theme is I thought I could fly, but it was pretend.
But I could not.
And now I'm okay with that.
Burn Tweddle said, 0.5 star. Stupid. Worst thing to ever happen to cinema. They are just toys. Why would I give a shit about what a bunch of toys think? Are they supposed to be?
The film asks you.
Are they supposed to be like humans and should be viewed as equal to us?
Yes.
If so, then fuck Andy, the alien overlord, for enslaving all these people, and fuck Pixar for not addressing that they all have Stockholm syndrome and that slavery isn't okay.
The toys are not Andy's slaves.
No, they don't do jobs for him.
He doesn't force them to do any labour, and in fact, the only time that he engages with them is when they are sort of canonically out of the world. Like in my view of Toy Story, what happens when they turn into that floppy toy mode is that they are dead. That's how
And they're constantly being reborn.
It's not so much they're being reborn. It's just that their identity pauses in a like stochastic sort of way. So they're like hang out, and then they're like dead.
You did choose but like there are other words you could choose for that. You've plucked for death, which implies a kind of certain finality.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Does it? That depends on your standpoint, I suppose. But for me, like dead in the same way that being in a coma, being asleep.
Right, those things are different to death.
These kind of deads that you can be.
They're
or
not,
like on the operating table when the doctor pulls your heart
death.
out by accident and he's like, oh shit, and then he puts it back in and you're back alive.
I feel you've conflated
like Ghost Town,
a lot of things.
Movie. I think the toys are dead when they're being played with, and I think that means that even then they're not. You couldn't really frame that as them doing labour for Woody.
No.
He pays them in I was going to say he pays them in housing, but that's problematic because that's an argument that people made about pro-slavery.
Yeah, no, so don't be doing that.
He allows them to have 40 acres and a mule. Does that help? No, that's another one they said about slavery.
What fraction of a person are toys?
But no, I think I disagree because I don't think the point of Toy Story is that toys are equal with humans. And I would go so far as to say that really all of the problems the toys encounter is because they are not. It's because they're not viewed as or trying to be the equals of humans. They see themselves in the natural hierarchy as like their purpose in life is to bring joy. I think they all quite have a really full sense of their own identity and their place in the world.
And they're very accepted. Well, apart from Buzz, but that is the
foul,
of the movie.
Nasty, foul Pete, Prospector Pete.
Yeah, they're quite happy about being toys. Although he's quite happy to be a toy.
He just wants to be like a toy that
he just wants to be a toy god.
Yeah, like a horrible sort of edifice toy that everyone has to bow down to and fuck as well. That's the subplot, the subtext to Pete's whole plan.
I didn't read that, but maybe it's been a while since I saw number 2.
You need to check out some of the special features.
The last one on Toy Stories from Usher_Knight said, bruh, how can the toys come alive like that? Bro, doesn't make any sense, and the animation is trash, TBH.
Okay, well, it was 400 years ago that it came out. They were using Microsoft Paint to animate most of those.
I enjoy the, bringing up a kind of an existential dilemma for the film and then just reducing it to, but even if you can explain that, I won't be engaged.
Isn't it so strange that Toy Story 4, which I personally don't count as a Toy Story film really, so much as like a side quest that happened, decided to tackle head on this idea of like toys being alive.
What is a toy?
What a bold idea that it never really grappled with fully.
I think maybe it's because they were aware themselves that most people aren't going to canonically consider this a Toy Story movie.
Like a bottle episode.
That they were like, well, you know what? Fuck it. It's been 2 decades. Let's answer the big questions. Yeah, it is quite huge that they
raise it and then
they just dismiss it straight away. Like they bring it up and you're like, wow, Bonnie has created life.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
but
good.
Who hasn't? Like
Let's
when Lisa
save
makes
it.
that City of Teeth people.
I honestly believe that in a braver, more original Toy Story film, they would have killed him.
What, just for even asking the question?
Yeah.
For daring to think outside the box?
They'd have pulled that pipe cleaner off him and chucked him into
That's toy heresy. I think it sort of suggests as well quite an interesting idea, which is that like the intent of an object is what makes it a toy or not. Because like he was just comprised of stuff that isn't a toy, like a spork isn't a toy.
Yeah.
And a pipe cleaner isn't a toy. But when they put together with the purpose of being a toy, they somehow become alive. And maybe that says a lot about us, I don't know.
Maybe it's if ever you give anything a face,
straight up alive.
Yeah, and then even if you take the face away, it's still
it lives, but it can't speak anymore.
Yeah, well, because remember, there are lots of those ones that Sid has where he's taken the faces off.
I do not remember those. No.
He's taken there. Well, I
only remember the Spider Baby and the thing that pulls itself along like the
that doesn't
from the
have
Addams
a face.
Family.
That would have been a Jack-in-a-Box, but it's just a hand on a spring.
A hand in a box.
There's the like fishing rod with legs.
Oh, they're all coming back. I hated those things.
Yeah, it's not good. I thought I'd move on to finally to look at 2 of your favourite movies.
Okay.
And I've started with the original Halloween.
Oh, what a great film.
Well, unfortunately not.
Oh, is it not?
And you should. I really want you to hold that thought there, and more importantly, that noise. Half a star from Alicia. Literally a waste of an hour and a half. These people can't act for shit, and there was zero substance in the plot. I have no idea why this is considered a classic movie. It has one song played repeatedly throughout the whole damn movie. And honestly, and honestly, they all deserved to die.
That's a terrible thing to say about those teens. What did they do?
Well, they put up with this one song on a loop.
She's just trying to babysit. She's just trying to earn that
some
bread.
Cash.
And you think she deserves to be dead? Also, it's Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I think she's generally considered a pretty accomplished actor.
One song played repeatedly is such an amazing.
That is good.
Oh, not this one again.
Oh, come on. Have the other one, DJ.
All I wanted, said Mila, who also gave half a star, was some death and a creepy guy.
Those happen.
I got that, but it did not satisfy me.
Well, the problem was that's not a problem with the movie.
No.
Your expectations were wrong.
That was a bad movie, full of loopholes.
Loopholes?
Fake.
That's not the same as a plot hole.
Fake kill sends.
Michael argues in a court of law that doesn't count as killing.
Loop and holes, separate words as well.
Ugh.
Fake kill sends.
What's kill sends?
I assume they mean scenes.
Oh, I see.
Fake
kill sends.
Fake blood.
Oh, yeah, I hate it when movies do that.
No puncture wounds.
Stop! This person's a pervert for the puncture.
Unexplainable superpowers and bad acting.
Goodness. I really don't think the acting is... I think Halloween is one of the few films of that era where the acting is pretty solid throughout. I don't think anyone's bad in Halloween.
No.
I mean, maybe some of the ancillary teens aren't going to win an Oscar, but compare it to Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
There's some very suspect performances in those.
Well,
unlike Halloween, where I think everyone's good.
Three of the 5 or 6 points that this person makes are about the murder not being
quite
hot
enough,
real enough.
I tried jacking it to these big teen murders, but for some reason it just couldn't quite complete the act. So I switched over to Toy Story.
Jacobus Santaros.
Yeah, I follow their blog.
Now, I think this is a review. Now, they have given it half a star.
I hate that.
But I feel like this
Can you
is
not give 0 stars? Is that... It must be the case.
I don't think so, right. No. I think you're going to like this one. This was recently as well, 7th of Jan this year.
Maybe it's changed. Maybe 2021 put a new spin on it.
He kills. He destroys everyone.
Yeah. ...
That's
not true, but sure.
BTW, he's fucking Ghost. which makes this movie so absurd and even funny. Not scary.
Oh, no. BTW. He's what?
He's fucking Ghost. No you in fucking either.
He's Ghost.
Fucking Ghost.
Michael Myers, he's fucking Ghost. That should be the tagline for him.
If they do a third remake.
I do hate to quibble with Jacobus, whatever they were called. It sounded like the words from Bedknobs and Broomsticks to me.
Jacobus Santaros. Decorum Satus D.
The thing about Michael Myers is he's a guy. That's made very clear. He's a fucking guy made of bodies.
He's just a dude who rocks.
With a backwards Shatner mask on. And he's just out there. He's going his own way very much.
Final movie. Oh no. Oh no. Are you saying officially on this pod that Michael Myers has been red-pilled?
Yeah.
The last 3 that I've got here, I figured I'd go for what I know to be one of your favourite movies of all time.
Okay.
Possibly your favourite movie of all time. What would you say?
My favourite movie of all time?
Yeah.
I think it's probably In Bruges.
Yeah, that's what I went for. Yeah. The last 3 I've got here. They're all good reviews for different reasons.
Okay. By which you mean they're all 5-star reviews?
They are all half-star reviews, unfortunately. Yeah.
Damn.
And that kind of leads into my next thing, the next review, which says The Canal Negotiation.
Okay.
Which I don't even really recall being a thing.
Well, it's the bit where they argue about... Spoilers, guys. If you haven't seen In Bruges, just pause here, go and watch it, come back. Where Ralph Fiennes is like... Oh, he's like...
Where they're on the staircase.
Yeah, because they don't want the pregnant.
I would have called that the staircase negotiation.
Yeah, I guess because it ends with him jumping into the canal.
Yeah.
They focused on that.
The canal negotiation was the only thing saving this from a 0 out of 10, which I enjoyed both because it's about 5 out of 5 stars and you can't give 0.
Yeah. Why? What is it about this scene?
It's
only about 10 seconds.
It's also
long, isn't it?
quite like indicative of the rest of the
Yeah,
movie.
it's
Like,
exactly
I can't see how you could
emblematic
enjoy
of the
that.
style.
And then
I hated all the other bits where they were swearing and talking nonsense for 2 hours.
3 commas on the 7th of December just gone said,
a trope.
ethics can be embodied in a better way. What I've seen is bullshit.
What a lovely critique.
It's so general.
I love the idea that the film's attempt was to embody ethics as a whole concept.
Just as an idea,
Like, it
not
has
any
to say
particular
something about
viewpoint.
Every stance you could have.
Just the idea of taking
Yeah.
a stance. Last review, and this I suppose is where we have to consider the humanity of filmmaking as an art and the way that it really can affect people's lives. Positively, of course, but negatively
lest
as
we
well.
forget.
This from Cambria on the 23rd of August last year, half a star. Didn't even get 30 mins in before I closed my laptop.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
My best friend committed suicide, and he was a dwarf. So please shut the fuck up, Colin Farrell. Really did not need to hear that.
I don't know. Look, obviously, we must treat that with sensitivity because I believe that was an earnest review. I don't know that Colin Farrell personally can be held responsible for,
don't know that
for certain plot points that took place.
Oh, and certainly not for any action taken by someone who may or may not have seen the movie.
And you could also argue that the scene they're referencing, which I think is where Colin Farrell is talking. Colin Farrell is deliberately portrayed as an idiot character who doesn't know anything.
Very stupid,
very credulous, doesn't really know anything. He's like a child, a sort of idiot child. I think what Colin Farrell's character is doing there, you could say, is drawing attention to the quite real plight that differently abled people face in a society which is, inherently ableist. And so whilst, there are some problematic elements of the portrayal of little people in Bruges,
and
which
we
it
should,
tackles,
and we
and
should,
everything Martin
McDonagh's entire canon
is clearly obsessed.
He's got a problem.
Pilkington-esque.
Yeah.
I don't think that particular discussion about the suicide, the suicidality rate in that particular community is necessarily contributing to it. I don't think the message of the film is, if you're below this height, you should kill yourself.
And even if that were in the end portrayed as the movie's perspective, I truly don't think that we can hold Colin.
Yeah, imagine
himself.
If the final monologue of that film is not about I realised that I didn't want to die. He was and I realised that all short people should.
I didn't want to die, but I tell you who should.
Even then, that would your I think complaint would be with McDonagh.
Definitely,
maybe the producers for financing it, but Colin, he's just
I probably have a word with Colin.
Yeah,
maybe say if the script says this, maybe say no, even if the cash is good, but. I don't feel like you.
There's always, as an actor,
lay all the blame.
You can't always know what the intent of the piece was. He might have thought, well, presumably my character is ironising that viewpoint, and then he watches the film and he's like, oh no, I've become very much a mouthpiece for Martin McDonagh's clear.
I've become the face of
anti-little people
hate.
But yeah, it's a valid point. I do hear you.
There's one final thing that I wanted to bring up, which is kind of separate, but related, that I have shared with you, which is about my search bar. I'm just wondering if we can ask listeners if they have any clues.
Any insight? Maybe this is something one of them has done as a fun prank.
Maybe.
We might have an expert hacker in our listenership.
Effectively, months and months ago, I went to find a stream of a Movies myself.
A legal one.
Yeah, and I went to a website I'd not been to before. I won't be naming it.
It was a legal website.
A legal website.
Yeah. Pay for.
They have to. It's a bit like if you ask a cop.
Yeah.
If you go to a website, they have to tell you up front if it's.
They have to have it in
one.
the URL.
Yeah.
It has to be /legal.
.crime. So I went to this website. I've honestly never visited it before in my life. I clicked into the old search bar, and down came that little menu that's a list of that little cache of the previous things that you have searched. And there was one thing in there that I had myself searched somewhere.
It was probably legal movie sites to pay to pay artists for their work.
And then beneath that, and what really caught my eye was the following phrase: How to make them fat witch stop tobogging I off? 3 question marks.
Now, I remember you sending it to me, and I can't remember what I was doing, but I had to stop whatever it was.
I
made
knew.
me cry.
I told you before I sent through the image that you had to be sat down and stop whatever you were doing.
The phrasing is so good.
Well, it's because it's definitely something you did. Like, there is
when?
Like, we're asking the listenership, but that's just a means for me to bring this up.
I just don't think
and say
it
that
can
you
be.
100. No other person on earth talks like this.
I resent that, Clay. I don't talk like that.
Your
fat witch
linguistic
bogging off.
Has your linguistic fingerprints all
I'd like to see you
over
prove that. Okay, you want to take this thing to the court of law?
Right. But having gone over to Letterboxd, there I was, innocently looking for dwarf hate online.
Yeah.
And instead, what I got was the self-same how to make them fat witch stop tobogging I off. 3 question marks.
What I don't understand is, first of all, I have no memory of being involved in this sentence, and I will swear that on any holy book you can find. Second of all, it would have to be something. It would have to be on this laptop, no?
Yeah,
unless it can transfer on your Google account. Third of all, I've never had access to these laptops of yours. Fourth of all,
rarely.
Why does it only show up in what I'm going to think is your time of need? It just pops down. It doesn't always suggest that. For every search.
not
you're on
any
Deliveroo and you're going to search
and
for
I go pop in the postcode. And I go to type N and it's did you mean how to make them fat witch stop tobogging I off?
So yeah, if we've got any tech experts in the audience,
anyone who's got any clue at all,
or maybe a filthy
anyone who
hacker.
knows how I can take Isaac to court over this. Please do get in touch. Anyone willing to represent me against
it's a crime.
I would.
That I didn't do.
Well, I don't like it being.
I think you should probably consider it a blessing in disguise and just roll with that.
That is what the typist would say.
Now, look, this is That's a Shame, the podcast that we are speaking of now and speaking in and creating with every moment that passes together. The podcast exists, in my mind, in dialectic between us, of course, but between you, the listener, as well. Emphasis on the T there.
We heard.
We're so sorry about being away. You'll have heard our really good message that we put out. I read up on a lot of like PR theory beforehand on JSTOR.
Is that
many of the different arguments about how best to deal with?
Is that where you learned
situation.
to blame the listener?
I learned blame. They said chapter 1, play the blame game. Was one of the great theories out there. And it says be on the defensive as well. So I just want to reiterate, no, it's not our fault. And of course we're not sorry. Contrary to anything that either of us has suggested otherwise, just take that as the kind of declarative final word. But we are back.
We forgive you.
Once again. Now, who knows how long that's for, right? Because there could be another lockdown any minute. There could be another virus. we could just
the novel coronavirus.
We could have so much drilling next to our house that I go mad and get into a fight that I cannot win with a builder 8 times my stature. Armed, of course, with every manner of power tool that will make a noise at 6 a.m. or 4 p.m. on a Sunday. And yeah, that any of these things could happen. But for now, we're certainly aiming to keep a consistent output schedule. You're welcome to get on in this, but I was planning on doing a stream of the new Little Nightmares game.
Yeah, sure.
On Google's Stadia, but it will be on YouTube or Twitch or something.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. That'll be coming when I can be bothered to do that.
Yeah, of course.
But maybe Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. There's the days of the week. I won't list them.
All of them. They end in Y.
However, yeah, we're recommitting. You know us. We are ultimately committed, but it occasionally wavers.
We are a fickle pair.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's fair to say that's what you love about us, right? If we were here every week,
you wouldn't love us any other way.
You'd get bored. You'd be like,
there they are again.
Same old. And sometimes it takes not having something to realise how much you didn't even care it was there in the first place.
That is 100% true.
Now, for those still with us, we'll be back next week. We're on Wednesdays as well on the Patreon over at patreon.com/shamecity, where you will only be charged when we have episodes, and that's an ironclad Declan guarantee.
Come and find us also on Twitter at Shame City Gang. Yeah. The tweeting won't be as good because only Isaac currently has the login deleted
and I do not use them.
He does not.
I do not tweet.
Or if you've got something that you'd like us to look into, if there's something we've missed over the last few months that you think you need the Shame City TM take on, then email us.
Maybe Toy Story 2.
TAS@shame.city.
Not Toy Story 4.
We won't be speaking about that anymore.
I've been Isaac. You've been
Phil. I've been Declan.
We'll see you so soon.
Bye, guys.
The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you.